Hello, MouseHunt. Welcome to Feedback Friday. It is May 1st. It's a new month. Hello, hello. Right off the bat, too, I'll mention I'm trying out some new streaming software as the old software was not being too nice anymore. So bear with me if there's any difficulties, and you can let me know in the chat. Make sure you can see and hear me okay. And maybe I'll even tab over to see if I can watch myself. Looks like I'm working. Hi, Lockdown Dave. Hello, Michelle. Hello, hello, everyone in the chat. Well, I'll take that as confirmation that I'm coming in loud and clear. Hopefully, it might take me a couple Feedback Fridays to maybe tweak a few settings here and there, get the output just right, but hopefully it works well enough. Seems good now, much better. Good morning. Well, hello, hello. Well, today on Feedback Friday, don't have any sort of formal topics to collect feedback on, so I thought we could do some question and answer, general feedback, general suggestions. So kind of while you're letting that percolate in your minds as well, go over a couple quick announcements as well as a final summary of the upcoming small update to the tournament hall to make the Great Gnawnian Games mice permanent mice in the game. So right off the bat too, remind everybody that the spring egg hunt will come to an end on Wednesday, which will be May 6th. So you have up until then to keep collecting eggs and using your excavator. And then the egg hunt will come to an end at the same time as Feedback Friday goes live. That's 11 o'clock here in Toronto. Off the top of my head, I don't know what that is in UTC. But that's when we'll be closing down the event approximately. But probably no sooner than that. You will be able to play Egg Sweeper, however, for a couple weeks after. So if you have shovels that you're looking to use up on Egg Sweeper, you'll be able to use those for 2 weeks after the event comes to an end. And I would definitely need to look at a calendar to see what date is 2 weeks past then. That is Wednesday, May 20. So you have until Wednesday, May 20 to use Egg Sweeper shovels. If not, there is certainly a good chance that the Egg Sweeper will come back next year. It's certainly a popular mini game, so I don't anticipate us not running it next year if you did want to save the shovels. But just in case you want to use them all up, you have until May 20. Nicholas says the frames are so much better. Well, good. Maybe this encodes the video a little bit better. It's certainly that old software. I was just kind of putting off maybe learning or setting up something new. Or I'd always think of it maybe on Thursday. I was like, I don't have time to set it up. But this week I had some time to do so. Alex asked, do you have any more delicious oranges? I don't know, actually. I did get some oranges at the store, but I haven't had one yet to know whether they are as delicious as last week's oranges or 2 weeks ago oranges. Hello to everyone in the chat as well. And just popping in and saying hello now. Well, I'll switch over to the tournament hall. And I thought I'd give everybody a little update on what you can expect coming to May 6th. Also, kind of last-minute opportunity for any last-minute feedback as well that we could take into account this afternoon and perhaps even Monday if you're doing any final tweaks or adjustments. So I took a little selection of the patch notes or little quotes from the news post that you can expect coming on Wednesday. The spring egg hunt will come to an end, as I already went over. Egg Sweeper is going to be available for 2 weeks after the event ends. The Great Gnawnian Games mice are going to be added to the tournament hall, so by popular demand, we're converting those event mice into permanent mice. They're going to be moved into the indigenous mice group and a subgroup called Great Gnawnian Games. So you'll be able to capture those mice. So if you haven't collected them yet, or maybe you've been holding off wanting to earn a king's crown, you'll finally be able to do so. So that's by popular demand. We thought we would sneak that update in along with the closure of the spring egg hunt. Now, we also been reviewing kind of all the other items and content that's available as part of the spring egg hunt. Hopefully we didn't miss anything, but we went over things like the Great Games journal theme, or Great Gnawnian Games journal theme. It will be available. You'll have to collect the scrap pieces. I'd already had 3 scrap pieces. That's how you crafted it before. So a few of the mice at the tournament hall will drop those scrap pieces, so you'll be able to make that journal theme. The torch charms we are going to add as rewards to tournaments which take place in the tournament hall. So as you can expect, the Great Gnawnian Games mice will be the mice worth the most points in those tournaments. So those tournaments are going to be a little bit special in that not only do they give you tournament tokens, but they also give you torch charms. So when those happen to pop up, you might want to head on over. It's a good time to use up your runny cheese. Earn a few torch charms, and just to refresh memories, or maybe it was a while ago since torch charms were last available, they work a little bit like unstable charms, or they're maybe slightly better stable charms. Depends on kind of where you are in the game. But when you hunt with them, they pop they pop. I don't know what the exact phrase we use, but they convert themselves into other charms, so you kind of get a nice little random drop of a charm. Stejan asks, are we going to get a freebie fert later this month? I don't know. Oh, Larry's fertilizer this year. I believe on the Facebook page there was, I don't know with 100% certainty, but I thought one of the reward links were fertilizer. The very best asks, when Easter event is done, is there an ETA for the next Kings giveaway? If I remind me, it was said in a few feedback Fridays ago. We probably touched on it that it's we're looking to see if players wanted to see another Kings giveaway event. The Rainbow Scroll cases are kind of a popular return that come with that event. Maybe I mentioned previous feedback Fridays as well. There's going to be a little bit of gap between the end of event season and we're still kind of planning out the next permanent area or adventure for the game. So that's kind of a good opportunity for us to spin up some of the mini events and other events that you almost think of like event season extended a little bit. I'll jot that down as well. And the other hunters in the chat, you can let me know how you feel about seeing a King's giveaway make a return. Robotic says, I wish we could trade in dome shovels for fertilizer. That's a pretty good suggestion for next year. I can jot that down. We already have a spot put aside where we're writing down all spring egg hunt feedback. Mark asks, any mini events coming since we are nearing the end of main event season? Yeah, just like I just touched on a little bit, that's probably going to be the plan because we don't have too much else in the pipeline, or at least in the immediate pipeline for new permanent areas. So it'll definitely have to be some mini events and the like, or otherwise if you haven't finished your adventure book or maybe have some other goals you're working on, that'll be a good time to work on it. Bintag asks, why radioactive blue cheese on the marketplace? So that is, yeah, the second last point there. While we're going over all the other, or while we're going over the Great Gnawnian Games, specifically runny cheese as well, it'll be available in the premium shop, and kind of rule of thumb, anything that's available in the premium shop we also make available on the marketplace. And so radioactive blue was one of those exceptions, and that might have been kind of an oversight when we put together the mausoleum, or weren't quite sure if we wanted to do that yet. So we did a little bit of a deep dive into kind of the early game, and so because radioactive blue cheese is available in the premium shop, we also want to make it available in the marketplace, because for the most part, barring a few event item exceptions, we try to make anything that's available for real world money also available for gold in game, so there's it's just more accessible to everybody. Yudashira asks, how about Larry's Footlocker? Will it come back? No. So just the Great Gnawnian Games. There was also Larry's Football Challenge. That was a whole other event, but you can consider that completely retired. And we did look into the Footlockers and the Striker Charms that were related to Larry's Football Challenge, but they didn't really feel appropriate for a low-level area. And a lot of the things that were inside of them, or the theme of them, were very tightly themed to Larry's Football Challenge. Inside the locker, you would get, and I'm trying to remember the specifics of what it was, but you'd get things to help progress you in that event. So it just kind of didn't make sense to bring those back in a permanent context. We're also trying, we did a little light review. We wanted to grab some of the Great Gnawnian Games themed items and make those available in a way, if it made sense and if it was simple enough to do. But we also wanted to avoid spending 3-4 weeks kind of pulling together this big tournament hall Great Gnawnian Games update. We want also to keep it fairly light touch so it didn't distract us too much from working on the next permanent area at the same time. So it was a little bit of a balance act. We wanted to bring them out, make them available, but we also didn't want to spend weeks upon weeks kind of polishing it and reinventing everything. Making new HUDs and stuff like that would kind of dramatically increase the development time we'd have to spend on it. Michael says, one free fertilizer already came out in MG Links. I almost spilled my coffee. That was a close call. I think, if I remember correctly, when we were scheduling the Larry's Wall posts, I thought it was fertilizer wasn't one of them. I have to dig through and figure. I wouldn't have that info completely handy. I have to kind of dig through and see when that was. Brian says, turn Larry's Football Challenge into a mini-event to launch update. Can return with future mini-event weeks. Potentially. I wouldn't rule it out. It doesn't feel as much of a high priority to me because it doesn't have those unique mice. So I think that was the big sticking point for a lot of hunters for many years, was there were these event mice, the Great Gnawnian Games mice, and we just didn't run that event anymore. It got to be a little bit too many events. It was a little too much to maintain and upkeep. So by popular demand, we thought we'd put them into the tournament hall. We like that suggestion, but we also want to keep it fairly simple. So because the Larry's Football Challenge doesn't have those unique mice, or doesn't have kind of significant rewards that feel like, I wish I could get these again. And they're sort of in limbo. They were retired, but they weren't limited edition. They're kind of floating in between. Owen asks, oh, actually, no, the free fertilizer's in your golden egg. That's correct. Let me double check, actually. I better triple check. But that rings a bell. I knew there was a free fertilizer somewhere. I think I'm going to invest in a microphone, as if you're hearing a buzzing sound, that's my CPU fan encoding video, just possibly hating life. Alright, so this would be the... Where is that golden egg? So many now. 2020 spring egg hunt. There we go, it's the 20K golden egg. Crack open, items inside. No, 30 shovels. I thought there was fertilizer in there. No, there's just shovels. I'll have to double check that. I'll make a note, but it'd be a little tricky to dig that up quickly on stream. What else happened? I got over on this point form notes here. We have the Winter Cup Dissonance skin has been added to the Trapsmith for tournament tokens. It will be 130 tournament tokens, which is the equivalent of the total cost of, what's it called? It's one of the Sphinx skins, and there's 3 different varieties. You have to buy the first one to unlock the second one, buy the second one to unlock the third one. It's the third one. I think it's the Black Sphinx tournament skin. I forget the exact name of it, but it's the same cost as that one. The miniature torch as well is available just for a few tournament tokens. I believe it was 3 if I recall correctly. So that was a collectible that was part of the Great Gnawnian Games. And if I recall, I think the mice just dropped the torch because I have a whole ton of them in my inventory, so they must have not been limited in any way. So they've been added to the tournament hall for tournament tokens. As well, in case you didn't watch other Feedback Fridays, we're not quite in the loop, just kind of in a nutshell, what you can expect for the tournament hall is hunting with any sort of standard shop purchase cheese, so your Swiss, cheddar, marble, brie, Gouda, super brie. They're going to attract the mice that are already there. Their encounter rates have been kind of tweaked around a little bit, and they will drop runny cheese. And when you arm runny cheese, that in turn attracts the Great Gnawnian Games mice. And the Extreme Every Sports mouse occasionally drops a single tournament token, so it's kind of a way in case in between tournaments and you just need a few more tokens for something. There's a way to maybe get 1 or 2 more, but by no means is it kind of a flood of the tokens either. It's an occasional single drop. Yep, and Jonathan confirms no 30 shovels in the gold egg. No fertilizer there. All right, well, I'll double check after the stream. Justin says, yes, to King's giveaway. Haven't cut a leprechaun in 11 years, and I have rewind charms to use. I don't know if that would be the best use of them there, but pretty well the only thing that will help you is just pure luck, and I don't mean the stat in game, I mean actual luck to capture one. I've been playing MouseHunt since day 1, and I have not captured a leprechaun. I don't know how many I've encountered, actually. I think the stats are still broken. Suzanne says, we need rainbow scrolls and King's credits from King's giveaway. Yeah, it is a good time to get the credits. Ben says, hope I didn't miss this earlier. Are the game's mice the only mice attracted to runny cheese, or the others in the mouse pool? They are the only mice encountered. So as soon as you arm your runny cheese, you will only attract the Great Gnawnian Games mice. James says it is currently locked in the marketplace, so I'm guessing due to this announcement, yes. So that we were getting a little feedback as well earlier in the week from players, so at that point kind of realized it's probably a good idea to freeze the item, and definitely before Feedback Friday. So I think the last transaction for that skin anyway on the marketplace was April 16. So there's a kind of good heads up, the supply of that skin is going to change a little bit. So if you are a market savvy hunter and you have an offer up to buy one, you may want to cancel that. Owen said, did Dave briefly mention the Royal Challenge and then move on? My stream just lagged past. The Royal Challenge, was that? Yeah, I know the event you're talking about, where every week there'd be a new feat to accomplish, and it was like capture, block the banished, and stuff like that. No immediate plans, but I think that's for sure something that's going to have to kind of fill some of our cycles here while we're working on the next areas. Someone's going to have to start organizing some smaller mini events as well for anyone who's kind of looking for some goals, not quite sure what to sink their teeth into. Sometimes it's nice to have an active event going. Alan asks, has Caloringus egg been tweaked because originally it contained either 10 tungsten or 50 flaming queso? No. Very rarely do we kind of just randomly tweak things. And actually, it was the hope that when we added patch notes, that would really help as well. So we do our best. Everything gets kind of tracked in our project management software, and then at the end of at the end of kind of a due date when we're getting ready for a code push, it's a nice spot to skim over and write up some patch notes. And so that's kind of our hope to avoid kind of any sort of speculation or if anything kind of happened behind the scenes. But let me double check what's in the egg. Where am I going here? Convertibles. Caloringus egg. So it has quite the extensive drop table. I think it's roughly based on what that mouse drops either way. So there are a whole host of items. So by no means is it kind of guaranteed to contain any one thing. It can be anything from wildfire, bland queso is quite common, solidified amber queso also quite common, flaming spice leaf, tungsten as well. There's a 20% chance to get 10 tungsten. So maybe that's kind of where you're seeing a lot of tungsten because it is a common reward. Lamb asks, will you be fixing the global stats for each mouse? It is in the backlog. It's on the back burner. Unfortunately, it requires quite the technical overhaul of how that stuff is recorded to make it work correctly. So it has been, but I'll be the first to admit there's some spider webs growing on that item in the backlog. Any plans for tournament base? No. Or for platinum tournament base? No plans. KS asks, do you celebrate Chinese New Year and Christian ones, but no Muslim ones? Well, we kind of depend. I kind of play it by ear. I mean, I think we're kind of at the point where there's a whole lot of events, but we definitely kind of use player feedback as well to kind of guide us what real-world events would like to kind of be celebrated a little bit in-game as well. Sejin says, I heard Rainbow Scrolls. I want more Rainbow Scrolls. Well, that's kind of good as well. I can underline that a King's Giveaway might be a good small event to launch in between now and the next area. Monica says, what about the Hope Mouse? It is available in the training grounds. It got a little bit awkward, kind of us as programmers, artists, game developers, kind of deciding what warranted releasing that mouse. And so we thought maybe that's something better left to the games community and kind of individual people as well. So it got kind of a little bit awkward there. So we made it a mouse that's available in the training grounds. Michael Green says, who has their leprechaun egg? I don't think we would add a leprechaun egg. Even the shelter egg has proven to be quite the kind of frustrating type of egg. Terry says, I feel privileged to have caught a leprechaun a few years ago. And Tang says, yes, good time to release the Hope Mouse. Yeah, again, I think it's kind of a bit of a rock and a hard place, or a little bit of an awkward spot where we don't want to come across as using anything that is serious or tragic to... It could have the wrong connotation, like we're somehow trying to promote the game on the top of that. And as well, that element of trying to decide, well, when do we do it and when don't we? And then there's kind of the perception then to deal with, well, why didn't you do it for this one? Do you not care about this? And so it just kind of felt like it wasn't the best medium to use in the game itself. And like I said, something that's better on the discussion boards within the game. So kind of a community thing for everyone to decide for themselves and discuss on their own. Can team search be added to the backlog? Maybe have to elaborate a little bit on that, whether you're searching for a team by name. Brian says, I think it would be cool to have a fundraiser event with reference to the current COVID-19 situation where you work together with the nurse and doctor mice by recruiting, catching them. Yeah, again, I'm open to feedback here, but to me, I always get a little bit worried that it's going to come across like we're trying to profit off of a tragedy or trying to promote the game or advertise it. I have confidence we would pull it off well. I mean, I think everybody on the team has that sort of, they have a good level of compassion. We're all kind of reasonable human beings. But I'd still get nervous that somebody might see it, and if it's just not quite in the right light, like we're making light of the situation, or we're trying to gamify it or tone it down. And two, in the back of my mind, I just think that programmers and game developers aren't kind of the educated source you should be getting that kind of information from. Certainly, using the internet, you can see a whole wealth of misinformation can quickly spread, and so I'd always be nervous that I might contribute to that, because I know I look to other more sort of educated specialists to get my information and kind of check where they're getting their information from a little bit to try to stay informed. But I wouldn't want people getting their news and making life decisions based on what they see in a game, especially not being a doctor or a government official myself. Swift says, any plans for updating old areas this year, like Whisker Woods? That too is kind of in the cards. It's just sort of a time thing. We haven't had time to address it, but I think that would be the next area we do. Barring if we had kind of major inspiration on an area that came after that, that might change that decision. But for the most part, we've been going in order. And we've had some pretty good success there in terms of new player experience and new players coming into the game and kind of getting what the game's about and having fun playing it by starting at the front of the game and just kind of working our way forward. Also makes it kind of easy to iterate a little bit better, where you can look at, well, how did they do in the mountain? Okay, what did we learn there? Let's try the mausoleum, and kind of measure that. I mean, how many people go from the mountain into the mausoleum, or how many people are going to the mountain to the Whisker Woods, and then that would kind of be the next spot to improve upon and see if we can make that better. We are kind of catching up. Froma is the first spot that has pretty good gameplay. It's a nice introduction to using crafted cheeses a lot more. Has a nice kind of hierarchy of mice. Could definitely use a HUD, I think, to smooth out some things for new players first getting there to learn it a little bit quicker. Sally says, I agree with you, Dave. We play games to escape real life and real world tragedies. Having invade the game world will not be great. That's a fair point as well. I mean, in some ways, games are a way to relax and kind of forget about the stress of everyday life, at least for a little bit. Not to ignore them, but just kind of get that respite in a little bit, recharge your batteries, and then come back refreshed. Kind of your stress has been drained, and now you're ready to deal with kind of more serious topics in life. So I could see some players, they might want a little bit of, this is my little escape from the stresses of life so I can recharge my batteries and come back refreshed to then take on some serious problems. Robotics says, Leprechaun exists, just very rare. Best to assume you'll never get one. Statistically speaking, yes. It's kind of the chance of getting is statistically insignificant enough. It's not quite lottery levels, but I guess kind of statistically speaking, unless we change something, the average hunter will never get one. Yudashiro says, and you can buy lower level Rainbow from lower level Hunter. I do believe that is correct. The Rainbow scales in difficulty based on the person who opens it. Now, difficulty might not be the best word there, because those maps use fairly easy to encounter mice that don't require super hard to get cheese or anything like that. The main feat of those maps is just the sheer quantity of mice that you have to capture. And that's the higher tier ones do come with greater rewards. And if you're trying to collect each chest, that might require a little more ingenuity, I suppose. Case asks, James, where in the world do you live? Oh, you have a conversation going on here. Joan says, isn't the LEP available on 17th of March? No, it's available at all times. All the prize mice are always on the loose. During the King's Giveaway events, they get turned up a little bit. But other than that, you can always encounter them. I'm pretty sure they're in almost every area. I think the restriction is more on cheese. Some cheese can attract them. And they are bonus hunts now, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure we added them as bonus hunts. Could be wrong. There's a lot to remember. Ryan says, maybe Whisker Woods rework can involve the cherry mouse more, since that sticks out a bit more compared to the rest, culminating in Hydra and ship blueprints. Yeah, I agree. I think that would be a lot of the inspiration as well. There's some unique characters there. They already sort of have nice hierarchy and themes in terms of difficulties and rarities. So I think we would just play that up a little bit more and create a little bit more of a tiered progression, a little bit more of a certainty as well. Definitely Whisker Woods being an old area, it has a somewhat dated gameplay. If we were to do it today, we wouldn't do it as we did back in probably the 2010 or so, I think. I measured progression in offices, and I remember that was being put together. The office was in Burlington downstairs, so it was downstairs Burlington office. I don't know when we were there. Office has been in Toronto for a long time now. Caleb asks, any plans for a way to unlink my MouseHunt account from my Facebook account? Maybe Michelle could shed some light, and there she is in the chat, shedding some light now. Just make a username, log into the settings in the toolbar, and then use that. I don't think there's a way in the game to disassociate the Facebook account. You can create a username and password, and then you can use that to log in. I mean, if you don't log in with Facebook, it's not connected to Facebook at all. Shiora says, other suggestions is doing lower level of rainbow maps together with lower level hunter. It is a good one, help each other. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's kind of one of the popularity of maps as well. It's one of the ways in the game you can cooperatively work towards a goal together. Stejan says, rainbow maps are easy until you need all 5 Zolkor districts. That would be a little bit of a time gate, I suppose. But still easier than needing a whole lot of difficult to craft or rare cheese, I suppose. That said, the rainbow maps that would take you to Zolkor, they will be a little more rewarding than the maps that don't take you to Zolkor. Solo rainbow maps are amazing, though. I don't know. I think I'd maybe do that once. It might burn me out a little bit personally. Ashley says, are the prize mice affected by your trap and base stats bonuses such as Aura, Codex, or Prestige base Umberfloor? This was a question asked recently nobody knew the answer to. I don't believe so. Again, it would be kind of quick, be a little tricky to check quickly and concisely, but for the most part, traps and bases and stuff don't really affect the mice that you encounter. It's your way of capturing them. Do you mean it improves your chances of capturing them? It should. It plays out just like a normal encounter. I think the only exception there is if you've recently caught a prize mouse, there's a cooldown time before you're allowed to capture another one. Off the top of my head, I don't quite know what that is. But having a stronger trap should give you a better chance of capturing it when you do encounter it. That said, they are quite strong still. I don't know what setup you need for 100% catch rate off the top of my head. Chong says, I soloed the giant rainbow map. It was interesting. It does test one's understanding of basic map solving. Good challenge. It would be quite the lengthy challenge. Asks if Rainbow or if Valor Rift maps are in the work. Got Rainbow in the mind now. Not at the moment. There are no plans to do maps for Valor Rift. We're still, we did a little bit of brainstorming to how to make that a little bit more interesting because there's not a lot of autonomy over the mice you capture. So the area doesn't quite feel like a perfect fit for maps, so we're kind of open to feedback and suggestions there. I know some hunters suggested that a unique scavenger hunt might be kind of an interesting way to approach that. Emma says, I thought the prize mouse cheese restrictions have been turned off when they were made bonus hunts. They're not consuming your cheese, so there's no problem with tracking. I'd have to double check. I know that property still exists on cheese. It can attract prize mouse. But I don't think I could find it too quickly. Ooh, my laptop's taken off. Opening up another program. Let me see if I can find this here. I'll try. This might be in vain to do it on the spot instantly. Yeah, there's no way I'm going to find this just poking around within 30 seconds. Yudashiro says, can the Prestige base updating its stats? Pretty sure most mouse hunters don't want to do mass. It should be in the tooltip, and actually that's a good segue as well to one more thing I wanted to kind of bring up on stream that's in the pipeline. So let me actually see here. Let me see if I can show you. See if this works. All right, where is MouseHunt? Too much of a delay on the stream, maybe. So the prestige base should show you the stats that it's giving you in these little tooltips here, the trap stat explanation, if you will. Shrink this down a scooch. So you should be able to see what it's doing for you. That'll total it up. Find the chat again. But it actually is an interesting note. There was a recent bug report, and actually over 9,000 egg shed some light on a little bit of an issue that was happening with the prestige base as well as the rift set bonus, in both the stalker and the walker set bonus, where some of those stats were actually being inadvertently. So I got my laptop on a little stand here and it keeps sliding down. Some of those stats were actually being inadvertently doubled, and that bug was introduced with the Whisker Woods Rift when the calming charms, or not calming charms, the taunting charms were updated to give you the rift set bonus when you encounter specific mice. It introduced a problem where that rift set bonus, it was doubling the power bonus it provided. The luck was unaffected, however. And then because it had very similar sort of logic on how that worked out when the prestige base came along, it was also affected by that, but by both the power and the luck was being doubled. So we did a bit of a deep dive. It was a little bit of a bird's nest to unravel there, but we fixed the problem. But because it had been like that in the game for so long, we're actually going to adopt those higher stats and bonuses as the permanent or intended stats that the rift set bonus and the prestige base are going to have. So I kind of have a news post that goes into a little bit more detail, but in a nutshell, the rift stalker and the rift walker bonuses are going to have the amount of power bonus they provide doubled, which technically they already do right now. It's just you don't see it because it's a bug. And the prestige base as well is going to provide, instead of +1 luck, +2 luck per eclipse floor reached during Ultimate Umbra. And I'm trying to remember what the power, it's double whatever the power effect it has per total or highest floor reached during Ultimate Umbra. So like I said, I have a news post that'll go into a little bit more detail. It's going to maintain the status quo. It's just going to be able to see those stats as though that was the original intended stats. That keeps all the catch rates and experiences that hunters are currently used to. That'll keep that consistent. So it was an interesting look where we weren't quite sure which way to go, but we decided that, well, if it's been like that for this long, there's no sense in lowering it. Alan asks, is there a place I can get my traps cleaned? I've missed 5 mobsters and 4 leprechauns. I don't know. Let me ask Larry to polish it up a bit. Ryan says, how about adding Valorith mice to a more massive map? That's an interesting approach as well. If it was something that covered more areas as well. It being an Archduke area, though, we don't quite have any maps that are right now kind of tailored to that title. So that'll definitely come down the road. We've already earmarked the next level of map difficulty or title requirement is Elite after Arduous, and that will you have to be an Archduke to be able to open up a Relic Hunter map and find an Elite map, but we're kind of waiting until we have a few more Archduke mice in the game, so that'll probably come with the next Archduke area or thereafter. I think once we have 2 Archduke areas in the game, then the next Relic Hunter season, that would probably be a pretty strong signal to update those maps, but we'll see as we go. Jonathan says, I think there was an example of someone encountering a prize mouse with an ultimate charm armed and missing the prize mouse, so it became a question about what parts of the trap do not apply to prize. That may have been quite a while ago. I'd have to kind of look into that. Like I said, I kind of tried to... I'm foggy on the details there, right? There's a lot to remember. There's the prize. And actually the prize mice have been overhauled, probably since then, so that could have been the case at one point maybe. It was just your trap power against the mouse, but they have been overhauled probably, I don't know, again I have to kind of check the logs to see when this came into effect. Yeah, but it looks like it's pretty straightforward. Mouse catch roll, what do you do? Yeah, so maybe that could have been kind of an old implementation. Definitely prize mice have changed a little bit here and there throughout the years, from MouseHunt 1 to MouseHunt 2, MouseHunt 3, and then maybe after like the prize power thing, they may have been changed up again. Like I said, it used to be used to work a little bit differently, so it could be different now. Ryan says, so we've been catching mice at those levels, but the TEM says something else instead. So you mean about the rift set bonus. Yes, so basically, here if I can go into screen share mode again here. Let me see here. Basically, these bonuses that the prestige base says that it has, or actually better yet, the rift set bonus. Let me arm a rift trap. Sure. I guess that doesn't really matter. Sure, give me an energy charm. So this bonus that you see here, so I have the Rift Stalker Codex, so I get the Rift Stalker bonus. I have 3 pieces, I'm getting a 20% power bonus. It's actually giving you a 40%. Let me actually just open up code as well here. Rift equipment. Yeah, so the Stalker is meant to give you a 20. Now, what this is doing behind the scenes is actually giving you a 40%. So you get the 20% when your trap is set up, and then when you actually go on a hunt and you encounter a mouse, it's giving you another 20 on top of that. So you don't see that because it happens when you encounter the mouse. And so kind of behind the scenes, there's 2 ways that the bonuses get applied. Either when your trap is loaded up, it's like, okay, cool, this and this go together, give you extra power, cool. But then when you encounter a specific mouse, it might be, hold on, you're using this setup against this mouse, give you a little more power. And so that was happening twice. It was a bit of a weird, very hard to see side effect of how the taunting charm was implemented about 5 years ago. So what you're actually getting is that 40%. That said, the luck is unaffected. So you can see here, my 3-piece bonus for the Rift Stalker is plus 10 luck. You still only have 10 luck. But the prestige base as well, everything was being doubled. So we sorted that out. Like I said, we kind of took a little effort to make a news post to hopefully make it as concise as possible. But basically, nothing's going to change. You're just going to see those higher stats. Or we're basically adopting the bug as working as intended, and you'll be able to see those stats. So we fixed the bugs, which made everything lower, and then we just went in and we made all the bonuses higher, so to keep all the same catch rates and stuff. Ashley says, scrolling down, our prestige bases have been stronger than we thought they were. This makes it sound even more worthwhile to reach a high Ember run. Yes, so your prestige bases are stronger than you think they are. That's kind of, they're hiding some more stats behind the scenes. Whenever you encounter a mouse, it just adds more power and luck. I think we're going to do a little bit of testing on that next week as well, just because it was quite a deep dive. Like I said, it was not an easy or obvious thing to find what was going on there, what the bug was. So we took a little bit of a deep dive. I want to get several developers' eyes on it as well, just seeing how kind of deeply nested that was. We're going to do a little bit of testing, and I'm hoping, again, no kind of promises. This isn't a firm date by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm hoping to get that out. I'm going to look at a calendar before I say something dumb. The week of May 11, is what kind of our goal is. But again, we got to kind of test things out, make sure things are working as intended. Lance asks, can the Prestige base update its stats on the drop-down and trap description itself, rather? Unfortunately, I don't think so. It's a bit of a legacy issue of kind of, if we were to ever do MouseHunt version 4, I think that would make it a lot easier. But kind of part of these problems of why this bug came to be was just kind of some of the underlying ways these bonuses are added get a little bit convoluted, and it's kind of it's a case of building new code on old code and then new code on top of that. And definitely with the game being 12 years old, there's kind of some corners of the code that get a little bit scarier. When you open them up, you're like, oh, I don't always touch this in a while. And so, every day the goal is to make it a little bit better than it was the day before, but also kind of accepting some of the limitations of just kind of the foundation and the framework that's set in. Don't want to take on something that's going to be a little bit brittle or a little bit harder to maintain down the road. But yeah, I have to kind of evaluate that case by case. Dustin says, it's not a bug, it's a feature. Yeah, that is probably a pretty good case of this. Like I said, it would kind of feel bad to fix the bug and have all the stats be lower. And really, for 5 years, at least for the Rift set bonuses, people have been used to these catch rates. So we figured we'd just adopt those as though they were intended. Trevor says 2 luck instead of 1 and 40% power instead of 20. That is correct for the Prestige base, and the 40 is the Rift Stalker. But the Rift Stalker and the Rift Walker bonuses, that's another thing, just talking about the bonuses gets a little wordy. Their luck was not affected, only the power bonus they provide, so that'll be fixed up. Alex says, don't need to fix the bug if you make it a feature. Well, we do want you to be able to see the actual stats you're getting in that trap selector. So we did fix the bug, but then that brought all the stats down, so we just boosted them back up, and now you actually see the stats that you're getting. Wolfie asks, just curious, why isn't the Nightshade egg available as a drop from the Nightshade mouse in Mouseu Pichu? That might be a good kind of suggestion for next year. Justin says, there was a bug in the background with doubling the stats, answering a question for me. Like I said, I'll put up a news post, but kind of in a nutshell, nothing's going to be made weaker. It'll just maintain the status quo, but you'll be able to see those stats. So hopefully the news post will provide some clarity. Brian says the Codex of Valor's power and luck bonus affected too. No, it was just the Rift Walker, Rift Stalker, and the Prestige base. Michelle says it would be Pitchfork if it got corrected. Yeah, for sure. And I think that was one note in the news post as well, that especially considering the nature of the Prestige base and how the Valor Rift works, that it would be a little bit of an early bird bonus if you were able to take advantage of those double stats to then get a little higher in the tower, which would give you higher stats on the base. To take that away would be difficult, and anybody coming to that late would just forever be sort of locked out of getting the same high score as somebody else. Trevor said, may have to go back there again, made it to 93, considered good enough as the additional few floors didn't seem worthwhile. Double the value of floors that it is, yeah. So the Prestige base will give the 2 luck per TE catch. Actually, that's another little something that isn't too clear about the description. So the power that you receive on the Prestige base is based on the highest floor you have reached during Ultimate Umbra. The luck is based on the highest Eclipse floor you have reached. I think right now the description says Eclipse is captured, but technically if you get to an Eclipse floor and then you run out of hunts and don't capture the Eclipse, you still got that bonus. So that'll be updated as well. And we got a lot of kind of things going on. Oh, my legs are hurting. I've been sitting very weirdly on this stool. Oh, we got a lot of things on the go right now, and I know that's been corrected. I'm trying to remember where that was done. I'm pretty sure it was done in one branch, and it's also done in that branch where we're fixing the Rift set bonus. So that should come out at the same time. That is changing the description for a little clarity. Fritzoid says, power set bonus on physical, tactical, hydro, etc. There are a few. The physical brace base, that pairs with physical trap to give you an increased power bonus. Trevor says, any target date month for the new Archduke area yet? No, we're still just kind of hammering out the last details. So Jacob's putting together this week has been his priority focus. I'm going to check up with him this afternoon as well, get caught up. And we're just trying to kind of put a pin in some of these final little details before we ramp up development. That said, the art team has been full speed ahead on character design. And definitely if you've watched some of Jacob's live art feedback Fridays, I think he's been doing floating island mice quite regularly. Sally says, love the Prestige base. Jonathan says, hang on, I'm confused. Uh-oh. Maybe I should have held off a little bit. See if I can find my news post. See if I can make something happen here. What do we got? Well, I don't think... Has it been? Yeah, I think Giorgio He's the resident proofreader. He's Captain Grammar for us. All right, where am I? Documents. News posts. May. Wait, what? Oops, it's in April. Thought this would come out in April, and it was a lot heftier than we imagined. Need some word wrap here. Ooh, that's a lot of words. That's a lot of words. Tell you what I'll do here. Actually post the news. Not on live here. Stuff. There you go. So let me see if I can provide some clarity. It's going to be a hot button issue here. Where'd the jack go? Yeah, affects the Rift Walker, Rift Stalker set bonus. It was introduced February 2015 when the Taunting Charm was given the equivalent Rift set bonus when encountering certain mice. The Prestige base has been affected since its introduction in October 2019. So for the set bonuses, the bug affecting the Walker and Stalker were doubling the additional provided power bonus when 3 pieces of Rift equipment were armed. However, the luck of these stats were not affected. So that seems incorrect because that should be 2 pieces. It's a lot to keep straight here. So the Rift Walker set bonus has been updated to provide a 20% power bonus, and the Rift Stalker set bonus updated to provide a 40% power bonus. These additional bonuses were already being applied while hunting, but were simply not visible in your trap stats. As they had already been around for so many years, we opted to make them a permanent fixture instead of fix the error and weaken the Rift set bonus. I wonder if I didn't update the proofread version of this news post. Prestige base specifics. The bug affecting the Prestige base was providing both double the power and luck given based on your highest floor and highest total Eclipse floor reached during Ultimate Umbra. The Prestige base has been updated to provide 20 power per highest floor reached during Ultimate Umbra and 2 luck per Eclipse floor reached during Ultimate Umbra. As was the case with the 2 Rift bonus sets, these increased stats were already being applied while hunting, but were not visible in your trap's stats. Making a little note because I spotted some errors in my news post. Check for 7 about 3 pieces giving power bonus. Like I said, it was very niche, some of it, so I gotta kind of just triple check. There's a whole lot going on in that. Jonathan says, sorry, this is because, oh, and Ryan, it's funny because I imagine this bug was playtested and taken into account unwillingly, so game balance, nothing really action happened in the Rift areas. Yeah, for sure that would have been affecting while we were playtesting as well. Alex says, I thought the double bonus only applied to Rift mice. You get the bonus for using that trap setup, so it increases your stats, and then if the mouse is weak to Rift, then you can capture it using Rift power. So even during, events or something where you're capturing event mice, they're weak to Rift, so you can use the Rift Walker and Stalker bonus against them as well. Is this extra power luck only in the Rift areas or non-Rift areas too? I mean, someone correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm horribly mistaken, but you get those bonuses anywhere. You don't need to be in the Rift. It's just by pairing those pieces of equipment together, you get a bonus to your trap, and then after that, all the normal rules apply for hunting and capturing mice. I thought the TE only added 1 luck. TE, Total Eclipse, since when did it become 2 luck? So might be some context issue. That'll be a news post coming out as we fix a bug where the stats were being inadvertently doubled. How will any other base ever top the Prestige base? Well, it is a prestigious base. That's why we named it that. It was definitely intended to have the potential to be the best reigning base for quite some time. So that's even better than we intended it to be. Sue says, how about adding Rift extra charms for next year's spring egg hunt, maybe just to keep loot drops? That is on the to-do list. Or not the to-do list, but it is, we've already written that down as a suggestion for next year. We kind of have to look into how's that going to work with the Rift Walker and Rift Stalker set bonus. because it can't provide that bonus because the charm only ever consumes when you get an egg to drop. So it's a little bit awkward there. It may have to be exempt from the set bonus. That's something we have it on the list. We already made our sort of milestone release for 2021. We have a task in there already, so that's going to queue us up quite nicely to look over that stuff. Owen says, why don't we all just wait until the news is released before asking clarifying questions? Well, it's good to that's kind of a point of Feedback Friday as well. Sometimes it's asking specific questions to get specific feedback. Sometimes it's just getting general suggestions. And a lot of it as well, just seeing how we explain something or when we share a piece of information, seeing what's confusing and what's unclear about that. And then that's going to help kind of go through and read the news post for a third time. Like, okay, maybe we got to tweak a couple things here and there based on the response on Feedback Friday. So I definitely kind of have to bear with us a little bit because we're kind of sharing things that are yet to be. And it is a way to get feedback before things even go into the game, which is a lot easier to change things before they're into the game. Typically, once they're in, we don't like to change them too much once they're in the game. People are used to it. Yudhishara asks, any info about Dragon Shard event and Big Jack event? Definitely have that earmarked for in the not too distant future. When we're putting together the 2021 Egg Hunt, we wanted to, or suggested to run those two events during the Egg Hunt. But then as we put that together, it felt too Queso Canyon centric, so we pedaled on that. But we definitely want to make that available because if you have been hunting in Queso Canyon, you may have gotten some Dragon Shards, and that'll allow you to cash those out. Goodbye, Minotaur Base. Yeah, you could say relationship with Minotaur Base over. Prestige Base is my new best friend. Ben says, Dave, is there any way to get trap sorting by luck to use the actual luck in the Prestige Base? We could look into it, but it's a lot harder than it sounds, so probably not, but I wouldn't rule it out. Ashley says, always has been just displayed stats wrongly or incorrectly, yeah. I think we're getting into power creep territory here, though. Our approach for power creep is interesting. Every time we put together an area, we have a list of coefficients, and here's the setups that you're using in this area. But then we also have one that just has a 100% catch rate, whether that's feasible or not. And that's kind of the sanity check. Well, if we ever get to the point where this area you can have a 100% catch rate, what does it look like? And we make sure we're comfortable with that. And then that kind of prevents power creep. And the same way that you can go back to the town of Gnawnian now and just mop the floor with all the mice there. But if you couldn't, that would be very, very weird. So years down the road, if there's like a fabled area or something like that, and you just have these massively powerful mouse traps, it makes perfect sense that you could come back to the Valor Rift and just mop the floor with it in the same way that today you can go back to the Meadow or Town of Narnia and just absolutely crush the mice there with your high-level equipment. So as long as the pacing feels good, I think that's more important. I don't really believe in power creep. Or I don't think it's a thing as long as you're pacing things out and you're creating new, more rewarding challenges as the challenges of yesteryear become a little easier. And as long as you're incentivized to take on those new challenges and not kind of camp out and do the same thing that you've been doing for 5 years, then I think it all kind of works out in the long run. And there's definitely things too, like having title requirements on the traps helps out with that as well. So somebody starting the game, they've been playing for 2 weeks, isn't handed the prestige base and said, okay, now you don't even need a trap on top of the base. You can just have a 100% catch rate in the town of Narnia, but those requirements kind of help gate that stuff as well. Xiao asks, was there a change in drop rate for certain eggs? I don't believe so. So we definitely, I know in a game that has a whole lot of loot drops and RNG, there's often quite prevalent for confirmation bias, or you're looking for, well, when you're kind of, the lady luck is not on your side, you're looking for kind of an outlet of something like to explain it, but it's very rarely do we get in there and tweak and tune things without then announcing it in the patch notes. And like I said earlier, that was one of the big motivations for patch notes, just to kind of make sure we're always transparent. That's something we've always aimed for since the inception of the game, really. Lightning storm egg drop frequency could be increased. I can jot that down as kind of something to look over next week as well. I never spell lightning for some reason. I don't know. It's a weird. It just looks weird even when I spell it correctly. Can add that to the list of things to look over in 2021. Swift says, isn't double the stats for Prestige Base compared to its original design very power creepy? When we approach the end of an area, we always play test with actual trap setups. So because it was there since day one, not really. I mean, it was taken into an account. Sort of when we're benchmarking, well, how high can you get with different pieces of equipment? Typically, it's called Monte Carlo testing, when you just actually run simulations over and over and over again, and actually go through it step by step rather than kind of projecting it through calculations. So that's always toward the end. That's something we're doing an absolute ton of. So in some ways, it's been taken into account. Caleb asks, is it possible that a private option for our profile similar to Instagram? That's a pretty good suggestion as well. It was kind of pseudo there long ago when the game was a little bit more attached to Facebook. You could change your Facebook privacy settings. Jonathan asks, is there an alternative way to say that the Prestige base only gets half the bonus? So like I said, I think we'll kind of maybe save that for, got kind of good feedback to review the news post a second time, but you'll have to kind of wait till that is out, and that'll hopefully make everything clear. We'll go into more detail then. Brian asks, will the MouseHunt album be back on Spotify anytime soon? iTunes is weird without any Apple devices. Yeah, it is a little bit weird on my PC too. I use it from time to time, but I can't say with certainty. Ryan says, a lot of new areas are really power heavy, so I reckon it's not too big of an effect. Marvin says, will there ever be a concrete explanation about luck versus power? Well, basically, luck is the only way to get 100% catch rate against mice. I guess technically power can do it. I think we round up in your favor. So if you have a 99 point, I don't know what decimal precision we go to, but then power will be 100%. But luck kind of looks like this, power kind of looks like this, where luck looks like this. The more luck you have, the exponentially stronger it gets. And when the formula lets the catch rate go above 100%. So it's kind of a nice way to lock in. If I have this much luck, then no matter how much power I have, I know I'm always going to catch every single mouse. Swift says, did you playtest the Prestige base in other areas, though? Yeah, I mean, that's kind of fair enough of looking it through with those stats, but it will kind of have an equal effect throughout all those areas. And like I said, when we're going through areas, we look at them with 100% catch rate as well. So if the Prestige base unlocked the ability to never miss a mouse in somewhere, it's kind of been taken into account on that checklist as we're finalizing an area. We playtest it with 100% catch rate and make sure we're comfortable with that. And then we know, okay, years down the road, if that scenario presents itself, then that's kind of already been taken into account. Now, the only sort of monkey wrench there would be, is that happening a little sooner than we intended? Saul asks, in the early game, there was a balance between attraction, luck, power. Would you consider making a very high luck attraction setup for high-level areas? 30% attraction, 70 luck. Definitely attraction is one of the more rare bonuses to get in the game, depending on the piece of equipment. Jonathan says, you can listen to the MouseHunt album on YouTube. Good to know. Swift says, I feel a better solution is keep the double stats in Valor Rift. No, I disagree of kind of putting it there, because that's how they were always working since day one. So again, I wouldn't want to, I don't know, just felt bad to make something weaker that had been the way it was for 5 years. I mean, it's been like that for 5 years. I don't really think it's going to cause a problem. Jonathan says, because now one has to consider any new area, even non-rift areas, tested with super high prestige. But wouldn't that pretty much ruin it for anyone going with, say, the Minotaur? A little bit. Depends on, what kind of benchmark we're looking for. We typically, like I said, we kind of set up a coefficient of a few different setups, and we kind of play test it with kind of sort of the minimum, the maximum, somewhere in between, that sort of thing. And ways we get around that often are sometimes the mice with better drop rates are just generally a little easier to catch, and that sort of evens out the distribution, or kind of the deviation set. It isn't quite as extreme that way of the difference between somebody with a really powerful trap and someone with a less powerful trap. If the mice that drop a lot of progression-based stuff are just generally a little bit on the easier side, that kind of takes that away a little bit or evens that out. But it kind of just depends on what we're going for. Justin suggesting the chrome physical brace base would be a really cool idea for a unique chrome base. I've looked through a few different ideas for chrome base. In some ways it feels like it should be something special, but we'll see. Sally says, now that I have prestige base and got to floor 110, I'm no longer clamoring for the platinum base. Yeah, I mean, there's no immediate plans. Definitely, it's just kind of a thing that's just never been prioritized to overhaul tournaments. It would be really great, actually, if the physical brace base can be upgraded and the tribal base have some upgraded version of effects for Sunken City. Prestige base makes them useless now. But that's to be expected. As you progress through the game, you unlock more powerful equipment that makes your old equipment not relevant. In the same way, when you're starting out and you have the stone base and you buy the explosive base, well, your stone base is done now, right? And it's nice where there's some stuff that has niche and special uses here and there, but kind of along that main canonical upgrade track, yeah, you're going to have to kind of make those choices of, well, which ones are worthwhile based on what I'm doing. And there's always going to be some equipment that is just better than the lower level equipment. Especially a base that was just straight bought for gold from Ronza versus a base that requires a massive amount of time to both reach Archduke, reach all your max stats in the Valor Rift, and then as well just that time sink of just actually putting in the effort to make that stats that high. It carries a lot more weight than something you can instantly buy for gold. Very Best says an idea to create a new charm that is possible to catch more kings while doing a Zugzwang's Tower run instead of only one, like you can catch multiple chess masters using a stalemate charm. That might be an interesting little piece of specialty equipment. New attraction rate location mechanics. I'm going to have to elaborate a bit on that. Ryan says, I reckon most areas will be power heavy. Well, I mean, kind of a general, it just sort of evolved over time in the way that the game was set up and the way kind of players approached it, as well as that what you could call boss mice, or some of the more difficult to capture mice, tend to put a higher emphasis on having a lot of power on your trap, whereas some of the easier to catch mice have more emphasis on luck. And that was, because luck was exponential, years and years ago, it got a cap put on it in terms of the effectiveness rating. So you can, let's see how to explain it here. Let's say a mouse is weak to tactical, and so how that's implemented is that if it's very weak to tactical, your trap might get a 200% bonus against it. So your power gets doubled, in other words. Whereas luck gets capped at 140. So no matter sort of how weak that mouse is to a power type, your luck just won't ever be given more than a 40% boost. And just years ago, that was in because luck's exponential. And so it was just kind of a more sensible cap to put on things. But some of the more difficult to capture mice, they have really strong power type weaknesses sometimes associated with them, which makes the power, because it doesn't have that limitation, makes the power much more effective than the luck. And so that was just kind of a coincidence that played out over the years, and so we've played that up and continued that pattern as players picked up on that strategy. Max says, might you add a lower level rift area to make up for the gap created in this glitch? I don't know what you mean by gap. They have a pretty good pacing between titles. That's the rift plane's a little wide open as well. Sometimes you can take something on early, especially if you get like a piece of event equipment. You can kind of go. You don't necessarily have to go in the order they were released. Nito says, I am almost a new player, but what I see this game needs new events, new restart stuffs every year, events all the same. It became a bit of just a resource issue for us, where it's very difficult to continue to produce brand new events, and while also adding new permanent areas to the game. And so we got in kind of a bad spot where there were a lot of high-level players and there were no high-level areas. And that was having a negative effect both on players and us as well. The players would be starting to get bored. They basically accomplished everything, and then there was only so many other side goals to pursue. And so the game would start to shrink. And actually, as we've kind of put more effort into doing new areas, the game started to grow a little bit. So that's why we were looking for events to give them a strong identity and kind of free up more time. That said, even just repeating an event, it still does take a few weeks to kind of spin that up and get it ready to go. Terry says, the Gnawnian Games event now. Last one was years ago. As Dave said, those are mine now. Moved to permanent area. Yes, so the Gnawnian Games event has been retired, and as of May 6th, that's when we're planning to push that change. They'll be added to the tournament halls permanent-wise. On that note, I didn't prepare Quar. We need to, because definitely here we are at the hour mark. We got to wrap things up here. So tell you what, let's get some trivia question suggestions from the chat. Who has a good trivia question? And if I get it wrong, I can put a Larry reward link in the chat. I'm guaranteed I will get it wrong. Let's go make a Larry reward link. Let's ask Larry to help us out. Hey, Larry. I think I got distracted setting up the new streaming software, and I didn't go through the normal routine of preparing. The question answer reward, as Giorgio calls it, the Quar. 48, that's not a question. That would be an answer. Create a Larry gift. Nico says, I like the game, but do not want to be easily bored. Yeah, for sure. I mean, where are you, and where have you kind of run out of objectives? A good spot to look is the adventure book. Kind of helps guide you through taking care of some of the more important stuff. Rule of thumb as well: the adventures that reward King's credits, those are a little bit more optional. They don't unlock anything super important outside of capturing a strong mouse or maybe getting a little bit of a better trap. Alex, all right. Oh, there, I'm missing some questions here. Trevor says, what floor do you need to be at for the prestige base to have 1,000 power? I'm using a calculator. 125. Oh, that'd be 100. I'm using the new 1,000 power divided by 20. That'd be 50. I'm just way off. There we go. I got the first one wrong. Failed to use the calculator correctly. Nico says, how many Witch Brew skins are there in the game currently, and how much percentage of them do I now own? That doesn't seem like an appropriate trivia question. Alex says, how many Olympic mice are there? 5. I should know because I very recently did that, but I could be wrong there. You've got the Wave Runner, the Extreme Every Sports, the Hurdle, the Trampoline, can't think of the fifth one. Can't think of the fifth one right now. When was the wiki introduced? I don't know. I'm going to have to write these down for future Feedback Fridays. And DeBoy says, thank you for all the work you do. This has been the longest tenured game I'll be playing by far. Glad to hear it. Sally says, my mother told me only boring people get bored. Larry, could you give us a rib? I'll ask. I'll see what he has to say. Actually, I wonder, this is danger territory. In this interface, I'm going to type the word rib. And because I'm pretty sure, yeah, sorry. We just made sure that the rib cannot appear in this interface, so it's impossible to generate that link by mistake. All right, what do we got? We'll go with a classic here. And was it May 1st? Yeah. And shout out to Ardwolf. It won't be a referral link. Just this once. Typically on Feedback Friday it is. This is going to be a standard Larry, how do you do? All right, that is posted in the chat. I wonder if I can get it on screen as well. Let's do that. Figuring out how to use software on the fly. Oh, that's a big font. Let's go with a nice, reasonable Nintendo 64. 64-point font. It's kind of small, actually. I'm going to have to put it down here. I have no idea if that appears immediately. We'll see. I'll watch myself shortly. Yeah, it does appear immediate. All right. I have to use the studio mode where you can stage it and push it. There we go. All right. And there it is on screen. In case you're watching it recorded, do you want to remove webcam? No, I don't. I want to remove that link. Text, yes. So just in case you're watching recorded, I'm pretty sure on YouTube, it might depend on the layout, that the chat should be on one of these sides. But just in case, put it on the screen as well. Thanks for the ribs. It shouldn't be a rib. It's impossible. Thanks for the SB Plus, always appreciated. Yes, it was Super Re Plus. It's a classic. Will there be a free fertilizer? I'll have to double check. I'm not quite sure if that was in the cards or not, so I'm going to have to follow up with that on stream. And I have some reservations about doing that in case somebody used their shovels, not knowing that a free fertilizer would be coming down in the pipeline as well. That might create a little bit of remorse, so I have to review that. I don't know if I want to do that quite quickly on a whim. Chong says the Extreme Every Sports Hurdle, Trampoline, Wave Racer, and the Winter Games. That's the one I was forgetting, the Winter Games. And oddly enough, I'm pretty sure that was the thumbnail of Feedback Friday before I got started, because I like that one where wearing skis, doing a backflip, has a hockey stick in its hand that's about to hit a curling puck. I think they're called a puck. No, I don't think they're called a puck. What do you call it in curling? Stone, maybe? Maybe it's a curling stone. But he's about to do a slap shot on a curling stone, or whatever you call it. And that's just not going to go well for the hockey stick, the wrists, really. No part of that no part of those physics are going to work out. I was curious too, because looking at the illustration, the tail perfectly matches the color of the ski suit. And that had me wondering, well, is there like a perfect tail sock in the back of the ski suit to like slide the tail into, or is it just a coincidence? It's like a nice seamless transition. Who caught the first frozen mouse? That'd be interesting to check out. That'd be a little tricky to immediately. Yeah, let's do it. And then we shall say goodbye. We have one super important data request. Who captured the first frozen mouse? Inquiring minds want to know. Pretty sure is its type frozen? Yes. Is mouse ID is 79. So we're going to look for mouse ID. Was it me? Oh, you know what? These aren't by date. Never mind. There's no way. That information is just lost to the ages. We'll never know. Because I'm pretty sure it just sorts it by, yeah, it's just by user ID. There is no primary key on that table. No way, and no date column. No way to know. But apparently I've caught 24. I've missed 0 for a total weight of 55 ounces. My heaviest catch was 4. Oh wait, that was just in one environment. Environment 20, what do you think that is? Mountain, makes sense. All right, on that note, we will wrap things up. As I've been live for an hour and 15 minutes. So thank you for joining me, keeping me company. Thank you for the feedback. As I mentioned, on Wednesday, we're pushing the end of the spring egg hunt, so any last minute eggs you're looking for, make sure you keep on sounding the horn to find any of those last eggs. Thanks for all the suggestions. Took down some notes as well. Look forward to update our 2021 spring egg hunt feedback, as well as you can look forward to the Great Gnawnian Games mice. If you've yet to collect those mice or you're looking to earn a King's Crown, on Wednesday they're going to be added to the tournament hall where you can encounter them with runny cheese, which can also be collected at the tournament hall. So thanks for joining me, hunters. I believe Jacob will join you next week for a art edition of Feedback Friday. You should see what he's going to be painting. Have a good weekend, evening, morning, whatever happens to follow your time here after watching. And I'll see you in a couple weeks.
beautiful you. You're the master of the mausoleum. Look at me, barely at level 3. I am begging for a piece of gold. All the mice, all the terrible mice that you naturally attract to you. I wait with the trap and the bait, and they ain't biting in 1,000 years. I'm waiting on a mouse today. Anyhow, we'll be just fine. I may not be a hero, babe, but I'm willing to give it a try. I'll lay my trap by yours, and you will be my skull, and I won't care at all because I'm there. Look at you, such a beautiful you. I am caught up in the crazy game. Look at me, barely at level 3. I just know I'll never be the same. All the mice, all the terrible mice. If I had my way, I'd catch a ton. I wait with a trap and a bait, but they ain't biting on a single one. I'm waiting on a mouse today. Anyhow, we'll be just fine. I may not be a hero, babe, but I'm willing to give it a try. I'll lay my trap by yours, and you will be my scars, and I won't care at all because I'm there. You are there, so we are there. You are there, and I am there. I'm waiting on a mouse today. Anyhow, we'll be just fine.